Hi, this is Penny Z, librarian from the Cascade Library of Kent District Library. It's 6:30, it's Wednesday night, so it's time for what we're reading, unless you haven't voted yet. And if you haven't voted yet, stop watching what we're reading, get to your polling place immediately. If you got an absentee ballot and forgot to mail it, take it with you to your polling place. As long as you get there by 8, you can vote today. If you've already voted, yay you! Woo! I'm very excited on what we're reading tonight to have with me Shanika Carter. She is principal consultant at the Right Flow and Vibe, a company that she founded. And Shanika, hello, welcome. Tell us, what is the Right Flow and Vibe?
Thank you so much. So, the Right Flow and Vibe is my writing and editing company. I established it about 2.5 years ago in 2018, but I've been writing for years, like since 2003. I think what that's about 18 years or something like that. But I started the company in 2018, working primarily. It started off as me helping people with their resumes and career related documents, but it's grown now more to people who want to write books. So I do anything from basic copy editing to ghostwriting in some cases. And I still do the resume and career related things, and then everything else that falls in between, businesses that may need me to do their or proof their editing and marketing promotional pieces, to any written project, like business plans and that sort of thing, and everything else. So that's what the Right Food Vibe is.
Do you help people with their writing and edit it, but do you write yourself too?
I do. I actually just came out with a book in December, last December, so it's about to be a year. It's called To Lead or Not to Lead. You know what? I have a copy I can show.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Look.
Just talk about that. Here's my copy of my book.
Woo!
It's related to the lack of minority leadership in the workplace. And it originated, I was once in a doctoral program, and I ended up quitting. I wasn't doing it for the right reasons, but I had did all this research, and that's what my dissertation would have been on.
Oh,
So
great.
I just turned it into a nonfiction inspirational book. And so, yeah, I've been trying to promote and, sell it for this whole year of COVID.
Oh, that's a testament to come out with a book.
Yes, yes. It's been interesting utilizing like these online platforms, Zoom and everything. So I've been blessed. I can't complain.
Yeah, so you obviously chose to lead. So thank you. I'm glad you are leading and helping everybody with their writing. So if someone is writing their book, can they contact you and say, hey, what do I do with this?
Yes, and that's usually what it is. That's the primary question. Majority of my clients, they choose to self-publish, and they've been very successful with doing that. And I'm even thinking as I move forward, that may be the direction that I go in. I had a publisher, but I felt like I was promoting and self-publishing myself anyway. But some, they do want the traditional route. They want to find publishers, and I receive a lot of emails, messages for when different publishers may be looking for a particular genre. So if they desire that, I add that as part of their package to kind of seek out and send the proper materials to get them published as well.
Well, how exciting. I feel like you're making people's dreams come true. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
And you're also still helping people with resumes.
Yes, and you know what? That has really been even particularly during this time of the pandemic. It's been a increase in those. It's always been there. People will pop up on average every month, but this year, books and resumes have been like the major themes, really.
No, I don't want to go into money or anything, but is there one tip you can tell us about a resume?
Yes, one, and I always think people should know this, but apparently they do not, because I hear that it's a common complaint, and I see it in job listings. Never send your resume without a cover letter. Your cover letter is like your introduction, telling why you're sending that resume. Just imagine you send a resume, they're looking like, why did you send this? What position? Whatever. So they want that introduction of what you're applying for. How did you find out about us? And why we should hire you, and why should we look further at your resume?
Now, do you help people write those too?
Yes. Yep. As well as LinkedIn profiles, like if they need to copy the written information for that as well, I help with that too.
How wonderful. You're the person to know.
Thank
You
you.
need a job, you're publishing your book, you want to get in touch with Shanika Carter, the right flow and vibe. Did I get that right? The right flow and vibe.
Yes. Yep. Yep. You have it right. Thank you.
Okay, so this is what we're reading though. So Shanika, tell me, you write well, but I know you read too. What are you reading?
Okay, so I have tried to increase my reading. I used to love to read when I was younger, but then life, work, and all of that gets in the way. And then with me running the business, I had to set goals for myself. So I read one actual book, and I'll do an audio, and then I'll do an ebook all at the same time to kind of increase my numbers. So first book that I will talk briefly about, this is my actual book. It's a biography on James Baldwin by David Leaning. I've had
Mhm.
this book in my library for years, but I recently moved in February, came across it, and I said I was going to read through all the books on my bookshelf that I haven't read, which are a lot. And so this biography, first of all, James Baldwin is such a well-known and great writer, and I wanted to learn more about him and his life as well. So that is what really got me this time. I think when I purchased this book many years ago, because it came out in '94, I was only 20 years old then. So I've learned more about him, being an author and being a writer and living in Paris. So it's really exciting just to kind of see how things were for him during the era that he was writing, what made him move to Paris to become established and then return back to the States. So I would definitely recommend it for anyone that is a fan of his and wants to learn more about the inspiration behind his stories in the books he's written. So that's my actual book. My ebook, I have little notes here. My ebook is Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. And
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know, with the movie having came out recently, everyone I think has learned more about Brian Stevenson, and excellent, just fabulous guy. When I read the book, it makes me want to do more for like people in the community. And I think that what he's done, the additional title, the subtitle is A Story of Justice and Redemption. He talks about in more detail and depth in his book about the many other cases besides that main character, Walter McMillan, and different scenarios where people have just gotten caught up in the system and having to serve these ridiculous amounts of time, and losing so much of their life. And, you know, it's people like him, which there aren't too many of him, who would go through the threats, the everything he had to go through just to try to get cases tried again. So I really admire that and what he's done for those on death row. So that's what Just Mercy is about. And then my final book, which was my audio book, and it's taken me a while to get adjusted to audio, but it really does help me. Like when I'm sitting here working at the computer all day, I can listen. So the most recent audio book was Inside Out, a memoir by Demi Moore, the actress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love reading biographies about people, and especially if they have overcome something and shot to stardom, whatever that may be for them. And I was familiar with Demi Moore from back in the '80s on up to now. That was what made me kind of pick it up. I was really into '80s movies back then. I didn't even know about all the struggle, like living with a mom, not having a good relationship with her, um, and who was behind her having to deal with sexual assault, different things about her body image, which she still has concerns about even now. I mean, it's just you don't necessarily know what a person is going through just by looking at them, or even like people in her case who have money. She was like one of the highest paying actresses during that era of Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg. Um, it's just you just would never imagine that superstars or people that we put on pedestals are going through some of the same things that we're going through. So it was actually a good memoir. And so those are my three.
Yeah. So you like the nonfiction, you like the factual books.
You know what? I actually love fiction as well. That's what I used to read, but it's been transitioning more toward nonfiction the older I get.
Okay, really?
Hmm.
How does, how does a memoir of Demi Moore compare to a biography of James Baldwin?
I would say probably it's similar in the sense that they both kind of detail their struggles, but the difference is the era that he came up in. Also, well, actually, their upbringings aren't too far apart, except I think it's the era, like dealing with, all the racism and prejudices that he had to deal with in addition to being a gay man. She actually came from the Midwest, if I'm not mistaken, and she didn't grow up rich either. So, which was another surprising thing. I didn't know that about her. So, more similarities, surprisingly, than you would think.
Do you find that the more the biographies you read, the more everybody has something in common?
Say that one more time, Penny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Do you find that the more biographies you read, the more you find out that everybody has something in common? We're not so different as
Yes. Definitely. And that it isn't, and that common thing from the biographies I've read recently is that everyone has some kind of struggle. And even some things that we may not consider to be struggles, they look at as being a struggle. So, yeah, it's like everybody has that something that they've kind of, overcome.
it's fun. I don't know if I was going to bring this up, but I will. Because I started reading, it's called Genesis Begins Again.
Okay.
It's a chapter book for kids. But I saw the author, Alicia Williams. She was at the Michigan Library Association convention, a
Mm-hmm.
convention of librarians. It's not really as dull as it sounds. But this author spoke there, and her talk was so moving that I had to immediately check out her book. She talked about her story. I would love her memoir if she wrote one, but she grew up in Detroit,
Mm-hmm.
and she talked about learning to love to read by being visited by the bookmobile in Detroit.
Okay.
She said she would just wait for that to come. She didn't have any books in her house, but the bookmobile would come into Detroit and she would devour every book that she had. I mean, she just waited for it and read. She said, but she couldn't remember any of the books that she read when she was young. And she said, I don't remember any books that I read until I read one that was about someone like me. And
Mm.
that was, I don't know why, I know why the cage bird sings.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
She said, because this girl had been molested and I had been molested. And this girl was black and I was black. And, she was just going through and seeing yourself in literature like that. She just had never done before. And she was just making me weep.
Oh, and I wrote down her name and book when you said it too, so I could look it up.
It's a, I have, as a librarian, I've got to read, adult books, teen books, kids books, and I have to kind of make myself read kids books now that my kids are grown up and gone. I'm like, now I can read just books for myself, but I need to read those too so I can recommend them to kids. And I am loving them so much. I think I would read this for myself. It's about this girl named Genesis. And the book starts out with her being evicted again. And so she's coming from a really tough background, not really liking herself. Um, and I'm just loving Genesis. She's got such a great voice, and the way she stands up for herself, and the way she talks about her life and her family. I've just started it, so I'm not that far in, but I'm just going to throw what I'm reading right now. That's what I'm reading. So if you've got any kiddos that you need a good book for in your life, Genesis Begins Again, and the next one is coming out. And she wrote a series, so the next one will be out soon too.
Okay, I'll check that out. And I just recently read my first young adult book last year, I think. And because it was something like, why would I be reading it? But I'm glad I did. They're actually good books,
Yeah.
depending on the right. I'll definitely check that out for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. So tell us again your book titles, because sometimes people forget. And you had three of them. So I know it
Yes.
was James Baldwin's biography. Which author was
Uh-huh.
that? The Baldwin biography?
Yep, by David Leamy.
Okay. I love that picture on the cover.
Yes. And then my second one is Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. And the subtitle is A Story of Justice and Redemption. More detailed than the movie, which the movie was awesome, but I think you'll really enjoy the book too. And then Inside Out, memoir by Demi Moore.
Okay.
And that came out last year.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thanks for telling us what you're reading. And tell everybody, just in case you still haven't voted and you didn't listen to me, Shanika, you say it.
Yes, please go out and vote right now. Hurry. Don't take
Yeah.
your time. Hurry up.
Thanks so much. Everybody, we'll see you next week where we have another KDL librarian, Mark from Rockford, will be joining me, telling me what he's reading. And we will see you then. Otherwise, have a good night, stay safe, and vote.
Thank you.